Hi Kerry, so this is a PowerPoint that I said I'd send you. So very quickly we'll look at a brief background of why I'm doing this at the moment and why I'm hoping to meet with yourself, which will involve looking at the research stage, the harmony concept as it is, which is adjusted and shifted slightly from what was the orchestra model, the harmony and occupational performance tool, now to the harmony concept, which is a slightly wider concept. Some things to think about and maybe some ideas. Okay then, so I've transferred from the Masters by Research, that's my daughter joining in, I've transferred from the Masters by Research, she's obviously pleased by that, to the PhD. I'm working with Catherine and Becca. Catherine is my Director of Studies and she's involved with the Disruptive Media Learning Laboratory. Stage one of the research was concept evaluation of the orchestra model stroke harmony tool, what it was originally called, to see if it had any potential utility. As you're aware, lecturers from two different universities took part in focus groups to think about this. Stage two is moving on towards the co-construction of the tool itself and the development of the tool in order to capitalise on the essentially the findings of stage one were concepts particularly around the musical metaphor and the idea of harmony in relation to understanding a person's occupational performance had utility as an educational concept. We'll move on to that briefly now anyway. Yeah, so stage one, the concept evaluation of the orchestra model tool. Musical metaphor stood out as the key area, and particularly the notion of harmony. As you know, the harmony tool, harmony concept, uses the metaphor of a orchestral performance in order to understand a person's occupational performance. And it's this metaphor, this notion of harmony that appeal to people. Just have to pause while I retrieve the Weetabix. Okay. Yes, and the utility, or the usefulness, was around the idea that it could be a good educational tool concept to help students engage actively and in a new innovative way to understand occupational performance. So that was research stage one. Stage two, I've now at this situation whereby, okay, the harmony concept tool, orchestra model, is looking like it's got some potential utility as an educational tool. So I'm beginning to ask myself, how can we maximise that utility of the harmony concept as an education experience for OT students? We have this new niche that is saying that it has some merit. It seems to make sense that we can try and maximise that in order to improve things and to change things in a positive way. So I'm looking to work collaboratively. Obviously that's why I'm hoping to meet with yourself as well and to develop a wider team. I'm adopting an arts-based methodology in order to work creatively on what is a creative project. So there's lots of things to be done. The harmony concept, as you know, looks at occupational performance, looks at orchestral performance as a metaphor. It's creative, it's open to new directions. So this is a key thing of this slide. It's as it was, the orchestra model, the harmony and occupational performance tool, etc., etc. That is still an important part of the research, but I'm working more on the notion of saving Weetabix. I'm working much more on the metaphor side of it and the harmony concept side of it. And I think that's going to be useful potentially as a way of thinking about occupational performance, the way that I've originally conceived it with the focus groups. But the key thing now is to look at how some of those ideas can be looked at from a point of view of an innovative delivery of the harmony concept. So moving away slightly from just looking at how the harmony concept relates to occupational performance, or the metaphor relates to occupational performance. But actually, how can we then embed that as a series of sessions that really actively engages students in the process of understanding occupational performance? So that's the focus, really, the innovative delivery and experience. And what I'm trying to do is work with people in order to co-construct, co-curate that idea and move it forward. So some of the key ideas that are underpinning this are the notion of active learning, look at experimental design of course delivery, by taking a creative approach, we're in some way inculcating a creative approach, which is a core aspect of OT, so it's developing those skills. It's encouraging engagement of the students to take part in an active way to understand documents. And I'm looking to try and take a multisensory and ideally a surprising approach, so that when students are engaging with the sessions, that they don't quite know exactly what's going to happen next, and that way it can kind of surprise the learning. I suppose one way of clarifying that slight little bit of waffle there is, for me, creating the interest in the sessions is a gravitational pull around which the learning can happen. So around which you can really allow students to learn about occupational performance as a key part of OT, as well as learning some of the skills of being an OT, of creating creative sessions. Some potential ideas for future sessions, maybe. The harmony concept is a way to creatively understand occupational performance, so it needs to be an interesting creative group of sessions. Perhaps we could have a string quartet come in either to the lead lecture or into the seminars. Might have to have some kind of quick report there. But students could be the conductor of the string quartet to experience that notion of their metaphor. There's a fantastic Wii Music conductor game that's worth checking out, which you can do for a much cheaper way of getting a string quartet in. We could get the students to form a choir. A singing teacher could work with us to develop that, looking at the notions of harmony. I spoke with Jonathan Worth, who's a photographer, and just came to me the idea perhaps we could look at taking photographs of harmony to get a student thinking, do a sort of fieldwork project where they go around Coventry town centre and take a photograph of what might be considered harmony or discord. A drumming workshop could well be introduced as one of the sessions, looking at the idea of the tempo and the rhythm of occupations. There's a fantastic thing called an interactive music making table, which is quite electronic music making, but it's very, very easy to do because you're just literally moving things around on a table. That's worth looking at. Or we could look at visiting Coventry Cathedral and listen to the organ in the cathedral, thinking about the acoustics, the wider auditorium in which we perform. Obviously, these are just some random ideas. And a key part of the research process is meeting up with people, yourself, i.e. collaborating with people in order to develop these ideas and research them with students. So, the harmony concept is created to offer active learning and engagement. Yeah, so the point here is we have quite a nice idea of the harmony tool orchestra model, but it's a harmony concept, the overall package, that is the key thing for the PhD. The aim is to better understand the factors that influence occupational performance by creating an inspirational set of sessions for students. We want the students to engage in the learning process in a way that they would not expect, and essentially to improve their experience and establish creative, divergent thinking as a core value of OT that will enable them to meet the challenges of an uncertain world. Pots and pans on the floor. Things to think about. How do I become a we? How do I move from talking to you now to working in collaboration with people, hopefully like yourself? How can we move this concept forward? How do we go from these initial meetings to where we might like to be? Obviously, I suppose that is a research process. What would it look like? I.e. the sessions, but also the research process itself. And long term, is it possible to integrate this research and these sessions into the curriculum? But that's long term. So the possible journey of the research. So the stage now really of generating interest, moving from the concept evaluation stage 1 to stage 2 of the collaborative work. So there's myself, I'm hoping to work with an OT lecturer, perhaps somebody from the Disruptive Media and Learning Lab, and musicians, as I might mention earlier. So my wife is a music teacher, violinist, string quartet, so potentially she might be involved as part of the delivery of the sessions maybe. Also, this music teacher who comes into to deliver sessions. And there's also another lady that I've been in touch with via Jonathan Worth, who has been involved in similar kind of work with one of his sessions. So the aim then, the key thing, is to explore how we can maximise the utility of the harmony concept in order to create a really interesting learning experience for OT students at Coventry University. If you want to perhaps meet up, talk, discuss about what it might look like, develop an outline of what the session look like, then maybe trial these sessions with a small cohort of students, see what they think. It's all part of the research process, and then potentially maybe by the end of the PhD, or maybe as an outcome of the PhD, who knows, to introduce these as in some way to the curriculum. I think. College of OT curriculum guidance. The college does not wish to prescribe the specific content of the curriculum. Instead, we intend to enable the development of creative and innovative curricula that are adaptable, flexible and successful in connecting vision and outcome. I think we match